we signed essentially an agreement, right, with a preferred bidder. That's the slide there. An agreement with a preferred bidder where we were going to talk to them about actually building a green hydrogen project in Namibia. So in the southern part of Namibia, in fact, pretty much bordering our colleagues from the Northern Cape. I see my map had a little bit more detail on our computers, but essentially what we're trying to do is develop about a 5 gigawatt project in the southern part of Namibia. And the idea is to try and get exports of about 300,000 tons of green hydrogen going. Predominantly, we'd actually be looking to use most of that to make ammonia and then get that off to Europe. But what we're also trying to do is actually build a much more detailed ecosystem within the country and to use that ecosystem to really get what one could call a green hydrogen economy going. So essentially in the western part of Namibia, we're actually looking to build a liquid ammonia bulk terminal with our partners from Belgium. Around the country in the northwest, we would be looking to deploy a research sort of project where we're looking at whether we can use some of the sustainable sources of carbon in the northeastern part of Namibia to explore making synthetic fuels. And then in the northwestern part of Namibia, we would actually be looking to tap into its really good, robust, renewable energy potential to see whether there's possibility there to make either green hydrogen and or ammonia and then interact with Angola from that perspective. I think sort of what Namibia has realized is the just energy transition for us can be a very unique opportunity to really change our economic structure, because at the moment we're obviously a net importer of power from the SAPP, predominantly from our neighbors in South Africa. And we would really love to leverage the renewable energy potential in the country to export some of that power back into the SAPP and potentially green molecules into South Africa, but also into Europe as well, to decarbonize the region and of course the globe as a whole. So that's what we're busy with. And we'll be announcing the details of this strategy in Davos on the 24th of May. We have an event at the Namibia House where we'll be sharing this in a bit more detail.
Wow, wonderful. So yeah, the green hydrogen, of course, the unique part of green hydrogen is that it's easy, kind of easy, of course, to trade it from continent to continent. So also international, intercontinental trade is an important part. So it is really a global new energy system, and a global new energy system also requires new conditions. So what we did in the Northern Netherlands when we started the Hydrogen Valley approach, we really needed also the public support because they didn't trust the government because of the earthquakes. So we really had to work on public support, education as the part of the new Hydrogen Valley approach. So it's about a technical ecosystem, but also about the socio-economic ecosystem. And actually building a new global green hydrogen system is also about new socio-economic conditions. How can it contribute to prosperity in the region where the green hydrogen is produced? So you already thought about the ecosystem. Can you tell us some more about the possibilities and opportunities in your region?
No, fantastic. So, one of the things we've realized as we're trying to sort of make the most of the opportunity in Namibia is don't try to do it alone, right? So in order to fully unlock, I think, the socioeconomic benefits for Namibia, we have partnered up with fellow partner countries such as Netherlands, actually, which is why I was in Rotterdam a few weeks ago. We're working with the Port of Rotterdam to study potential port master plan designs for the Port of Lüderitz, but possibly as well for Walvis Bay. And that obviously has really amazing implications for us in terms of being able to accelerate the infrastructure development that we need to do from a port perspective. Our partners from Belgium are really bringing in new technology in terms of looking to build green hydrogen trucks, for example, with mobility. We're going to be looking to decarbonize our port operations, get some tugboats going as well that will be running on hydrogen. And then lastly, we're also going to be working on potentially green hydrogen trains as well, with our local train company, Transnamib. So these are all interesting sort of ideas and pilot projects that are taking the hydrogen economy and then actually infusing it right into other sort of aspects of our economy. Lastly, with our partners from BMBF, the Ministry of Education and Research in Germany, we're actually deploying a scholarship program where we'll be deploying about 5 million euros to design a program that begins to give Namibians the skills that they need to actually then start participating in these various areas of the economy. And again, if you sort of listen to a lot of the things I'm saying, the key thing there is don't try to do it alone. We're working very closely with the EU Commission and of course the Ministry of Energy and Climate Change as well in Germany. And we're always trying to expand our partnerships and our friendships. I mean, I really love listening to the Minister of Energy from Colombia today, speaking about the incentives that they're putting in place in Colombia to really accelerate and to create a conducive environment for their hydrogen industry, because we're looking to do exactly the same in Namibia as we speak, right? So this particular strategy document that we're putting together would be including a regulatory framework review as well. And then lastly, you know, again, to really get that socioeconomic benefits going, we have to engage the premier from the Northern Cape, right? Because they're looking to build an ecosystem quite similar to ours, about 20 kilometers away from their border. So, and of course, we trade commodities between the two regions. So whether it's manganese coming from the Northern Cape, they might be looking to bring coal from Botswana. They're looking to look at a port development, and we're doing the same thing. So regional collaboration becomes key. Could you be building hydrogen backbone that goes into South Africa, right? South Africa has Sasol, which will be needing green hydrogen as well. So I think the key aspect for us is partnership. It'll be key internationally, regionally, and of course, globally as well.
Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, a hydrogen backbone is a very nice perspective. And that's what we need, not only a perspective for the large companies, but also for the small and medium-sized companies. And I think that is an important part. If you make a roadmap or a plan for your region, is also to involve the local communities and the small and medium enterprise and the educational, the knowledge institutes. And that's also what we did. We asked people, okay, are you actually, if you want to accelerate the energy transition and people are a little bit worried, what will be my role in this energy transition? What will be the vision? Where will we be in 2030? And do I still have my job? And will my children have a job? And if you create a roadmap well, make it together with the small and medium enterprises, you can really contribute to the sustainable development goals. But you have to collaborate from the start. And it will not mean that it will take longer. You can even accelerate this because the public support, and if everyone knows their role with transport, for education, but also for a stable electricity grid, for example, then you can really accelerate it.
No, absolutely. And so one of the things we're doing to support that thinking as well is, you know, our two sort of top universities in Namibia, we've asked them to come together and put in place a Namibian Green Hydrogen Research Institute, right? Again, to sort of make sure that we are not just looking at development of infrastructure or crowding in of funding, which is obviously going to be what the next session is going to be focused on. How do we get development finance institutions to start deploying capital into this? But at the same time, making sure that the R&D actually starts happening in Africa or in Namibia with locals as well, so that we're beginning to problem solve for the solutions that we need. So we'll be looking at beginning to research items like different electrolysis, water desalination systems, and then of course different electrolyzers as well. Again, making sure that some of that problem solving actually happens at home for local and regional solutions as well.
Did you already get some questions from your inhabitants, from the local communities? What can bring it us? How can it help us?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the pilot projects, and again, it's a pity this is not showing, but the pilot projects that we're deploying across the country, we availed about 30 million euros in grant funding to get those pilot projects going. And the prerequisite for that was, of course, it was grant funding that we sourced from the German government. But the prerequisite for that was each of those pilot projects required Namibians to partner with a German entity to deploy those pilot projects in the country. So while the government was focusing on the large project in the southern part of Namibia, Namibians now started getting involved in problem solving for ideas right across the country. And so that then begins to disperse and spread out the socioeconomic benefits across the country, and you're getting different locals getting involved across the country. And it was amazing to see the sort of suggestions or the ideas that came out. We launched it on April 11th, the program. March the 11th, and by April the 8th, we got 25 different pilot project applications, and we were sort of thinking we'll get about 7 or 8. And we're now in the process of finalizing those. And on the 23rd of May, on the Monday, we'll announce who the winners are in Davos. And then on the 24th, we'll actually give some of them a platform to start articulating what it is that they want to do and how it is that they're going to be deploying some of that capital.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, and if we look to 2030, can you tell us some more about the ambitions of Namibia?
Yeah, I think by 2030, the one project is sort of estimating we should be producing about 300,000 tons, like I mentioned, but that's the one. I think by 2030, we expect we would have at least announced 3 or 4 other project developments, because that area where the Karas region sits has the potential actually to produce about 3 million tons of hydrogen from early assessments. So the one project we're now doing with Hyphen, we think you could put in 5 to 7 projects like that, if not more, in that region. That region, of course, is a biodiversity hotspot. So we'd be looking to do that in a manner that really respects the flora and the fauna. So by 2030, we would have finished the hydrogen master plan for that area. It's likely we have 2 or 3 other developers building in that area. We have done some studies or some estimates, which we will include in this strategy, which, by the way, we want to launch at COP27, where we expect that by 2040, we should have captured possibly 5% of the green hydrogen and or ammonia trade on the globe. And if that's the case, we are looking to do that and potentially export about 5 terawatt hours, if not more, of electricity into the SAPP. And when we start looking at those models, you're easily looking at 15 to 20 billion US dollars of GDP per annum, in addition to Namibia's GDP. So that's what we're looking at doing long term. But you always have to start and do small things now. So we're looking at METMAT designs, feed. We're looking at regulatory overhaul for us. So we know big pictures are very important, but we have to problem solve for the next few months first.
Yeah, you have to start at all levels. Huh? What we did in the Northern Netherlands is we started with a hydrogen valley approach. And actually, we worked on the European hydrogen backbone and connect all the hydrogen valleys in Europe. And that's what we're now working on. So every industrial cluster, every hydrogen valley has its own unique vision or characteristics. So in the Northern Netherlands, for example, we have a lot of offshore wind farms. We have the demand side in the chemical industry. We have the salt caverns to store the hydrogen in, and we have the unique transport network. So we were the first, but yeah, in the end, we need each other. So we really have to build several hydrogen valleys, and then that's what we call connect the dots and really scale up. Is that something that's is planning to do in the southern part of Africa also?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a very big part of the bigger picture. So one of the things that we'll be doing for the next 3-4 months is beginning to look at, for example, you've done very well, I think, with Gas Uni. So we met Gas Uni and we looked at, like you say, the natural gas backbone and how that's being transformed now to potentially start carrying hydrogen. Within Southern Africa, we certainly don't have an inter-regional gas backbone yet, right? But that's a conversation that our developers have certainly put into their early designs. And you can't sort of finish that backbone without talking to our neighbors. So conversations with Eskom will begin on one level, certainly with at least the inter-regional connection. At the moment, Namibia imports electricity from South Africa. So the connectors are there, the transmission lines are there, but we will be looking to upgrade those transmission lines in terms of their rigidity so that not only can we exchange power both ways, but we can do so with much larger volume. So that's one conversation that will have to start. And then, of course, in terms of designing like a gas backbone, the actual hydrogen one, that that we're going to have to do with certainly not just the Northern Cape, but all the way into plants like Secunda with Sasol. We have met Sasol and we've had early discussions of what's possible. In fact, I know some of them are here in the audience, and we can continue that discussion as well. But the key thing, the initial design we saw was 2,300 kilometers from Lüderitz all the way to Secunda, and that was about 6.4 billion euros initial estimates. Of course, this will definitely change after feasibility studies, but at least the discussions are going on. And the key thing for us as a region is to say, the globe has always said, we want to deploy $100 billion into emerging markets to help them with their decarbonization, but us as well. And building gas backbones like that would be a very key example of infrastructure that developed nations can help fund with concessionary capital that has the impact of decarbonizing not just Namibia, not just South Africa, but anyone who actually offtakes goods from Sasol, for example, that actually use hydrogen to produce those goods. So that's a very strategic conversation that, again, we will start to kickstart at Davos. But by COP27, we would love to entrench that in a serious call to action with key sort of projects identified.
So can we draw the conclusion that the international or intercontinental trade can really, give a large potential to emerging countries?
Without a doubt. I mean, and I don't think I just speak for Namibia. I actually really look forward to the launch of the African Green Hydrogen Alliance later on, because you can see those 4 or 5 or 6 countries that have come together. It's very obvious for us that there's utility in talking to one another, but if we get this right, that the just energy transition that was being articulated by the previous panel is a significant opportunity to industrialize. I think the Premier of the Northern Cape said reindustrialize, right? For us, we don't have a lot of the hydrocarbon-based industries that we will have to move away from. We just have to build a whole new one. So for us, it's a really interesting opportunity to leapfrog, skip some of the large, potentially hydrocarbon-based energy systems and start building sustainable, robust ones that are relying on renewable energy.
Yeah. Wow. So thank you. And green hydrogen has an enormous potential for emerging countries. Thank you very much. I leave the floor to you for the new discussion. Thank you very much.